Okay, so I'm doing a quick little recording. This will be the, example for what I will be doing on my podcast channel. Mostly commentary, discussion-based conversations that are stemming from the context of films, books, things that I'm interested in, mostly film and books, but it won't always be that. But I just figured I'd do a quick little commentary review, aka just my bias about Pride and Prejudice, specifically the Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley. I'd give you the director's cut, the time or time frame, year it was released, company, but I don't know that by heart. I just know the Keira Knightley version, which is what I've referred to it as for years. Okay, this movie single-handedly introduced me to Keira Knightley as an actress, and you can imagine why I was obsessed, because this movie is incredible. So the reason why I'm even watching it today is because, Netflix released it and I was like, oh yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a while, which is a freaking lie. I literally have seen this movie so many times, and I've definitely seen it in the last 6 months. There's no way. I've definitely seen it in the last 6 months. But, so I decided to watch it. A lot of people were talking about it on Twitter, and they're just like, this movie is so good, and blah, 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 blah. This version is so good. Which I totally agree, but I didn't realize that so many people really enjoyed this version of Pride and Prejudice. And there are a lot, by the way. I took a whole class in college about Jane Austen and adaptation. A lot of her novels have been adapted into films or otherwise. I don't want to say made for TV, but I know there's a Pride and Prejudice version that was, I think, went straight to TV. Almost like a series. That also was very good, but I prefer this one. If only because of the aesthetic and how great the acting is, how great the casting is, the chemistry between the characters, the lighting, the camera work. My God. Okay. I know I'm rambling, but this is just going to be your interlude, or I guess not interlude, but your preview of how I'm going to do my podcast. Next time it'll be a little more structured, but I just watched the opening scene to Pride and Prejudice. So enters this amazing instrumental that I think it also ends with, or at least comes in at other times in this 2-hour long movie. And of course the camera is following Elizabeth toward her house. And then she obviously walks out of frame. We're going into the house as if we are a human being walking into this house, entering into this family dynamic, obviously the home, the representation of the home. And we're seeing the sisters doing their little mundane, everyday things, whatever. One of the sisters is on the piano. I'd sit here and break this down for you a little more with the names of the sisters, but that's not the point. The point is, it's beautiful, okay? You have this like sunsetting or rising lighting coming in. You have us feeling like we're a part of the family, or just more intimate in that we're enclosed in this space and we're moving around and no one's looking at the camera. Obviously, no fourth wall is broken in this scene or this entrance. And then boom, Elizabeth walks into frame, and then she walks up these like steps onto, I'm guessing like the back porch or whatever. You see her shadow slightly on the like pillar. She turns over, looks through the window where her parents are discussing. I think they're talking about Mr. Bingley or how he arrived or whatever, and he's single, blah, blah, blah. More foreshadowing, breaking in more context into what the movie will become, obviously. And it's just awesome. You see the back of Elizabeth. You see her shadow casted over this pillar, and it's a frame within a frame. She's obviously looking through the frame of the window, and you see a frame of the parents talking through the window. It's awesome. It's amazing. And then Elizabeth walks. Obviously, she had already walked into frame, and we follow her through a door and enters the movie with the sisters having conversation about Mr. Bingley. I had to literally had to pause the movie because I was so engrossed in the scene. So engrossed in it. With Elizabeth walking into frame, the casting of the sunset, the shadow, her shadow on the pillar, a frame within a frame as she's looking into the frame at her parents who were talking about Mr. Bingley, foreshadowing her walking into the house again after she had already walked out of frame, back into frame, and then we're introduced to the story. This is how movies should be made, okay? I don't even know the director's name. I will link all this extra information somewhere where you guys can find this because obviously it's an art form, artistry, people deserve credit. I just can't get over how beautiful this movie is, how much I really love it. And I know some people will say, like, this is not their favorite version of the Pride and Prejudice adaptation, which I understand. And the novel's really good, obviously. It's a classic. And it's probably one of her most famous novels from what I remember in class. And most people know about Pride and Prejudice. Even if you haven't read it, you've probably heard of it. And then they have had other versions of it, like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which is also very, very good. Very good. Okay? Entertaining as hell. But anyway, I took this time to sit on my phone and make this recording about how much I love this movie. And you know, when you watch a movie, even if it hasn't been that long, but when you watch a movie and you have to pause it or talk while you're watching the movie and you realize how much you know this movie because you remember the dialogue, you remember the song, you get like fangirly over stupid shit, the smallest stuff, or you notice different things even though you've seen it a million times. This is why I love film and storytelling in general. When you have moments where you're just so into it and you're having such a great time and you forget about everything else that's going on. This has been a delight to speak about. I know I didn't even get into barely any of the film. I've only discussed the intro. But from the moment I pressed play, I was gone. I was a goner. It's so good. It's so good. Just watch it once. Okay? It's probably not going to be your favorite version the way that it is for me. I'm sure that my professor who taught me in my Jane Austen and adaptation class would disagree with my opinion right now. I remember for a fact that this was not her favorite version, but it is mine, okay? It is great. It is great. Please stan the Pride and Prejudice adaptation with Keira Knightley. Please watch it at least once. Thank you.